Let's welcome in our morning guest at this moment. Avinnash Gorakssakar is now joining us. Vijay Chopra is with us. K. Subramaniam is also with us. Manas Jaiswal will join us in just a bit. Avinnash, let's start with you. What are your top picks?
Good morning, Pankaj. We have three investment ideas. The first one is on NBCC. We feel that the kind of opportunity which presents for NBCC, especially in the construction space, and the kind of order book visibility, we have a buy here with a target price of 203. The other is a frontline private sector bank, that is Kotak Mahindra Bank. We believe that the kind of asset quality and the loan book growth expansion is going to gain further traction in the coming quarters, especially FY18. Our sense is that the bank should be acquired from a medium term perspective for a target price of 1050. And the third stock is a mid-cap holiday company by the name of Mahindra Holiday Resorts. We believe that this company, which came with an IPO of 330 rupees and which now has almost doubled its properties since its IPO, has actually presented a very strong set of numbers for the first 9 months. Profits are up by almost 50%, while top line is up by 30% on a consolidated basis. We believe that not only FY17 but even FY18 should be a very strong year, and over the next 12 months we expect a target price of around 550 here.
Right, just before we move on to our next guest, let's look at the rupee. Rupee is at a 1-year high. Yesterday there was big FII buying both into debt and equity markets, and maybe that has taken the rupee higher, and today is no different. So rupee is 65.76, at least in the first tick with the move that you're seeing. One would say that there is still a lot of demand for rupees, which means that there could be a lot of investments which come in today as well. In the pre-open session, the markets are absolutely flat. So Nifty as of now is only indicating a 6-point higher start. Remember, it is different from what the SGX was pointing out. SGX was pointing out towards a 35-point higher start, but let's just wait and watch. Sometimes, in pre-open, you don't get that price discovery, at least on Nifty, to be very, very accurate, because it's a composite of 50 stocks and 1 or 2 stocks just keeps moving. So as of now, 6 points higher, Sensex up about 34. Let's go back to our guest, Mr. Subramaniam. What are your calls?
Good. To begin with, buy on BPCL. Now, we have not seen these OMCs participating in this rally, and we feel that going with the soft crude prices, couple the fact that now the rupee is also strengthening, I think all that should give a decent boost to OMCs. And we have already seen a serious correction post all the hefty dividend payout that we have seen in all these OMCs. So BPCL could be bought for a possible target of 675. Give a stop loss of 625. Second one is Adani Port. This has been making some very gradual gains, and we feel that the momentum could probably go ahead, and we could see it climbing up to levels of 325. And one could keep a stop loss of 300. And the last one is Cipla, and this is again seen some pretty good breakout yesterday. Could be advancing to levels of 630, and one could keep a stop loss of 590. So also seen some pretty decent delivery volume. So I think it has attracted good delivery volumes at lower levels.
All right, so picks coming in from Mr. Subramaniam. Vijay, what are your top picks? Are they on the buy side?
Yes, I've got 3 picks all on the buy side. My first call would be BHEL. We've seen a fantastic consolidation in this counter, and this has gradually started moving up post it crossed 150 levels. The stock closed at 162 yesterday, and my take is that it can very soon reach 170, which would be the first target. And my second target for the stock is 185. It would take some time, although, but I think that BHEL has the potential to scale up. Although I would recommend a stop loss of 155. My second call would be Godrej Industries. Again, we have seen a kind of a small run up in this counter, but I think that it can go to 520, which would be my target, and a stop loss of 490 is recommended on the counter. My final call would be Jet Airways, primarily due to the crude coming down. All the airline companies should get benefited. So it is trading at 447 right now. I recommend a target of 460 on this stock, and a stop loss of 435 is very strongly recommended on Jet Airways.
Right, so these were the top picks that are coming in from our guest. Apart from this, some of the stocks that are in news flow. So IndusInd Bank will be in news flow. They have signed an agreement with IL&FS Security Services. It's an arm of IL&FS, which is into the capital market services, and they are going to buy this particular arm of IL&FS. The transaction is an all-cash deal. However, they have yet not informed the valuation because the deal is not yet complete. Only once the deal is complete, they would go ahead and announce the valuations of the deal. Deal is subject to agreement as well as regulatory approvals. IndusInd hopes to complete this transaction in the next 3 months. Morgan Stanley has written a note on this, and they are saying that IL&FS Securities will complement IndusInd's existing capital market business, and that's why they like this particular acquisition. However, it's not a game changer. It's not a big acquisition, according to Morgan Stanley, but definitely it will complement their existing business.
And of course, we'll have a few pharma stocks that will be in focus. We'll be watching out for Alkem, Biocon as well as Sun Pharma. There are news developments associated with all these counters. For Alkem, it has got the US drug regulator, US FDA's nod for lidocaine ointment. This ointment is used to treat ventricular tachycardia. That's good news for Alkem. Biocon. Mylan has got the US FDA nod for tablets which are used to treat breast cancer. So this is a boost for Biocon as well. And of course, Sun Pharma, that stock surged in trade a day earlier after the US drugs regulator lifted the import alert on Mohali plant. 98.5 lakh shares were marked for delivery yesterday. So big jump coming in the cash markets. 11.5 lakh shares were added in open interest. So cash markets as well as open interest in the F&O space saw a big addition for Sun Pharma, and that will certainly be in focus again after the up move a day earlier.
Right, Anisha, as we are speaking, there's some news flow regarding Glenmark, which is hitting the exchanges, that their Ankleshwar facility, which was under the FDA scanner, has got EIR, which means that the inspection has been officially closed. It's up 3% in the pre-open session. More details we'll try and get from the management, but that's also a pharma stock that will be in focus. Apart from this, large cap stocks that will be in focus. So L&T has done a share purchase deal to sell stake in South City project. This is likely to sell for about 190 crores. It's not a big deal, but definitely they would be getting this 190 crores. So that comes in as a good cash flow. SBI has a board meet today. The board meet will consider equity fundraising. No clue regarding what is the sort of amount that SBI is looking to raise. That's not something which they have told, but they are looking via the equity route. So that is always interesting. Tata Chemical has got a notice from the pollution board to go ahead and shut their Haldia plant. This is something which came in on March 11th, which is last week. They'll shut their plant because of non-compliance of norms. So they need to repair it again once before they see any approval coming in from there. Wipro has got a 12-year contract from NHS Scotland. Contract will be for developing eMPI solutions. The value of the contract is not yet disclosed, but these contracts are generally long-term in nature, so expected to contribute to the revenues in the next few quarters. We also have the management at SBI, which will be talking at 9:30 a.m. today. So in the next 20 minutes, you will hear from the management at SBI. It's at an event that they will be talking, and we'll be cutting across live to it.
There are a few other stocks that are in focus, so let's pull them up. V-Guard. That one is going bonus in the ratio 2:5. Prices will adjust for the bonus and V-Guard will be in focus. Fitness firm Talwarkar has signed an MOU to buy 50.01% stake in Force Fitness India. Force Fitness is a franchisee of Snap Fitness. So Talwarkar will be in focus. Rupa has entered an agreement with Fruit of the Loom. The agreement is to sell Fruit of the Loom products in India. And Fruit of the Loom is actually a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway. So that will also be an interesting development. Indiabulls Real Estate has its subsidiary has signed a definitive agreement to buy land for about 685 crore rupees. The definitive agreement is to buy land and properties within India. And the deal is likely to be completed by this financial year, and that will be a real estate stock we'll focus on. Tamil Nadu Newsprint is also in focus because HDFC Mutual Fund has bought 8.5 lakh shares at 314.5 rupees a share. So Tamil Nadu Newsprint will also be in focus today. Right. Vijay, do you think Sun Pharma is good for more on the upside? It's a big relief. The Mohali plant facility getting the all clear from the USDA after 4 years.
Well, I've been iterating this since almost a month or so that, the pharma entire pack has kind of bottomed out, and we are seeing that, green shoots of revival happening in all the pharma counters. And this, I said when Sun Pharma was trading at 640 odd. I'm sure that this is a very good news for Sun Pharma, and my target for the stock is 900. So even at this level, I would recommend that people who want to get into pharmaceutical stories, Sun Pharma is one of the safest bet in the entire pharma pack. So I'm very happy with this kind of news coming out, and this would surely result in the stock prices, and we'll see an upsurge in the stock constantly.
Right. Does this mean that the tide lifts the tide will lift all boats in the pharmaceutical space, Vijay? Because there have been other pharma companies that have also been plagued by similar issues like Dr. Reddy's. Do you think now there's hope that resolution will finally happen, and perhaps looking at the value they offer, could the rest of the pharma pack also see some buying?
Yes, definitely. There are stocks like Cadila, stocks like Lupin, Glenmark, where I see a lot of value. And one thing I would like to mention here that, this is something which is very normal. And pharma companies should take this in their stride, that US FDA is going to hammer them if they are not going to have their facilities in order. If they do not produce produce stuff which is of the global standards. But I think that this is overall very good for pharma companies if they are able to have good facilities and they maintain global standards of manufacturing. Over a period of time, I'm fairly bullish on the pharma pack, because we've seen in the last 2 years US FDA has been categorically very, very strong as far as the quality standards are concerned, and this is going to set a pharma companies to take on the world. And that's what I'm saying, that valuations wise, I see a lot of value in the pharma companies, and even if they have the best best manufacturing setups across the world, I think that we are here to stay, and we are going to see a huge upsurge in the valuations as well in the coming quarters.
Right, we're just about a minute away from opening. Avinnash, what would you do with the pharma sector? You think positive news flow has started to come for the sector?
Yeah, I think clearly, Pankaj, I think Sun Pharma's news is definitely a big positive surprise, and I think the stock could see further re-rating. I would believe that I think stocks like Lupin, Glenmark, typically Divi's, I think these are all stocks where possibly most of the bad news has got factored in, and I think any positive surprise now from the US regulatory front could mean that a little bit of re-rating could definitely come in, and I think we have already seen the worst of possibly the the negative news flow from the US FDA. So I would believe that I think not only maybe Sun Pharma, but even something like a Glenmark or typically a Lupin can be acquired on every decline.
Right, we're just a few seconds away from the markets to open. Markets are expected to open 20 points higher as per SGX, but in the pre-open session it's absolutely on the flatter side. Let's see what happens. Absolutely flat is what the opening is expected with a positive bias. These are first trades on your screen for you. So absolutely flat, 2.5 points higher for the Nifty. Hindalco is up about 1 or 2 points. ICICI Bank is about 2 rupees on the lower side. Reliance Industries 3 rupees higher, 1293, and Bharti Airtel. There's a downgrade from CLSA, maybe that's taking it down about 2.5 rupees at this point of time. Sun Pharma is up 5.5 rupees. It was one of the buzzing stocks yesterday, so it's also doing quite well today. But however, one would say that majority of the impact is behind. Glenmark is on your screen. It's up 2.5 to about 3 odd rupees, so it's about 2.5% higher. Remember, one of the Ankleshwar facility has got the EIR. That's always taken as positive news flow. Sun Pharma 711 right now, 3 to 4 rupees higher. Biocon is in news 25 rupees higher, 1,120 for Biocon. And let's look at Alchem as well. That's up close to about 2.5 to 3 rupees. So the entire pharma pack is in focus. It's a pack which has done exceptionally well and continues to be the case today as well. Let's look at L&T. That's also a stocks in news right now, but absolutely flat. As I told you, it's 190 crores. It's just a positive cash flow. It's not very big when you consider the size of L&T. Let's look at Tata Chemical. There is a plant shutdown news over there, or rather pollution board asking them to shut down a plant. but 2% down, 553 for Tata Chemicals. I don't think that the street was building in that this sort of news flow could come in, but right now it's flat with the negative bias. Wipro, they backed the order. It's up around 1 to 2 odd rupees. No major change because probably they've not given the size of the order. That is something which the street would watch out for. That's V-Guard for you. It's adjusted for X bonus. So yesterday it was around 235, 240 rupees. It's adjusted itself for bonus. It's at 178 rupees now. Talwarkars is up 2.5. You'll hear from the management. They've signed an MOU to acquire Force One, which is also the existing business that they have. Let's look at Indiabulls Real Estate as well. Flat with a positive bias, 0.8, 0.9% higher. Really no major change as far as Indiabulls Real Estate it is concerned. Tamil Nadu Newsprint, there was some fund action yesterday. You had HDFC MF in their HDFC growth plan buying 8.5 lakh shares of Tamil Nadu Newsprints. That's taking this name higher. It's up around 1% or so at this point of time. IndusInd Bank absolutely flat, no major change. So you can just see that the acquisition size is not that high, and that's why probably the street is not much excited about this. Anisha, any other names on the on volume side that you can pick up?
Well, Pankaj, Amtech Auto is one that has moved up well. It's up 4% on volumes larger than regular. Then we also have the JP group of stocks, which are seeing a little bit of a bounce back after the sharp correction seen a day earlier. So JP Power Ventures is up 2%, JP Associates is up 3%, some of them seeing a pullback. Then we have Nalco up nearly 2%, Siet and Jet are also up 1.5% or thereabouts on decent volumes. Dish TV continues with its up move, so it's now closer to 108 rupees a share, and on reasonable volumes it seems to be moving higher. On the losing end, we are seeing VIP Industries come in for some selling pressure. It was up 10% a day earlier, so a little bit of profit taking perhaps can be expected. Some of the real estate names like DLF and Unitech also seeing some profit taking, as well as ICICI Bank, which is a big gainer a day earlier. So these are some of the stocks that are moving on high volumes, but the start for the markets is quite flat. The Nifty is still down. The Sensex is coming to the green, and the Nifty is just about blinking into the green. So a flattish start for now. Avinash, how important is going to be the Fed decision for our markets? We have shrugged off all bad news and moved higher. And there may be a few FIs who feel a little left out. Do you think we have a good flow for the markets, and because of strong domestic flows, we may not correct too much if we see a sell-off in the emerging markets?
No, I think first of all, I think the Fed meeting which happens today, and I think the Fed rate hike, I think a 25 basis hike is already discounted by the markets. I think what is important is what kind of commentary Janet Yellen gives, and what is the kind of commentary on successive rate hikes. I think if there are more than 3 rate hikes, then I think the markets would obviously feel a little bit of concern, and if the commentary is hawkish, then I think you could see a minor kind of sell-off. But overall, I think the markets have been ready and for a kind of an interest rate hike. So I think 25 basis hike, if it does come in, I think it's going to be a status quo, and I don't think the markets could view it negatively. Apart from the fact that a minor correction could come in, otherwise I think the base of 9,000 for the overall market seems to be quite strong, and I think the kind of liquidity flows which are coming in from the domestic funds are going to subside at least initially in the near term. So I think as long as the SIP money comes in the domestic funds, the domestic liquidity continues to remain strong, and that would keep the markets on an upward kind of trajectory.
All right, so markets could find support there. Mr. Subramaniam, on open interest additions and the kind of move that we're seeing on Biocon, what do you see on the charts for Biocon? It suffered a big decline before the last expiry, and has consolidated since then and is back above the 1,000 rupee level. Any levels you're watching out for? It's now 1100, above 1100, seeing a 2% move now. What are the levels you'll be watching out for Biocon?
Well, in the overall context of the pharma segment, where we have seen some pretty serious correction in the large caps, I think this has been one revelation. Biocon has done exceptionally well. We have seen some decline of the. I would take more of a profit. I think some sort of a profit taking. But if I were to keep a level in mind, I would probably put level of 1050. I think that will be the critical level from where it has repeatedly bounced back. So I think we could probably see some modest uptrend, and probably the whatever rise we are seeing today could continue up to levels of maybe 1150 thereabouts. But broadly it's in the range, and I think probably waiting for some more trigger for it to really go past the previous high.
Right. Just wanted to mention Reliance Industries, and if we could look at the BSE name again, there has been a 12% block deal over there, and this was something which was proposed by the management that they would be looking to reduce their number of shareholding. So if you look at Reliance Industries, that's up around 9 rupees or so. Don't look at the price, probably it's not reflecting of any block deal. But if you look at the volumes on BSE, particularly on BSE, you again have that 12% sort of a number in terms of volumes. Look at the average, 14 million shares versus 38 million shares now. So that's an increase in volume. There has been some amount of impact as far as this is concerned. It is 38 crores or about 388 million shares which have changed hands, which represents about 12% of the company. But again, it's inter-promoter transfer. It is something which the street already knew about. Maybe before 31st of March is when they want to get it solved. So this is something which is keeping the volumes at least under check. Day before yesterday on BSE, you had that 50,000 crores of volume number. Maybe today also you have that number because of this such a big block deal that one has seen from Reliance Industries. 10 rupees higher right now. Avinnash, except for these consolidated cross holdings which the company is solving, what would be your call on Reliance?
No, I think Pankaj, apart from the cross-holding kind of development, I would believe that any price below 1300 rupees should be a price where one should gradually accumulate Reliance, because I think the overall story for Reliance continues to remain strong, not only on the existing E&P business, but more importantly on the Jio business. And I would be not be surprised that coming the first and the second quarter, the markets would be keenly awaiting what kind of revenue numbers the Reliance Jio business throws up, especially on the top line front. As far as the EBITDA contribution is concerned, I think most analysts were expecting that possibly only after FY18, the profitability would get positive. But looking at the kind of tariff structure, I think they are definitely looking at breaking even much earlier. So I would believe that, if one were to look at the next 12 to 18 months, Reliance definitely seems to be on a very strong note, and probably a target price of around 1450, 1500 looks very much possible. But I think one should gradually accumulate Reliance. I think the move has happened very swiftly, but definitely longer term also, I think the picture looks pretty attractive.
Right, but shouldn't one look at the move that in the last 10 years it's only done this much? So it was around the 900, 950 mark. So if you consider that, in the last 8-9 years it's only given a 14% return still.
I think, see, for a large cap stock, Pankaj, I think even a 15% upside is not very small. And I think the very reason why Reliance actually was considered not attractive earlier was because it was stuck up in a very narrow range and actually had not outperformed the markets. In fact, we have always seen that Reliance normally performs when the market underperforms. So I think this time, luckily the market has also performed, and the stock which has actually taken off has been Reliance. So I think a 25% move in such a short time definitely makes us believe that maybe in the near term, the movements may be a little restricted. But if one takes the earnings numbers into fact, especially FY18 and 19, then I think definitely Reliance definitely seems to be on a much stronger note. And I think once the investment starts paying off, I think the markets would be obviously be looking at this positive aspect more closely.
Right. Vijay, a lot of NBFCs actually did very well yesterday. So whether you had a Diwan Housing, India Bull Housing, most of these NBFCs were buzzing yesterday. Or rather, within NBFCs, housing finance companies were buzzing yesterday. Do you believe that housing finance is still a great business to own, especially if there is stability on the government side, where the focus is on providing housing for all by 2022? Do you think that this is one sector that can still grow very fast?
Well, definitely. NBFCs are the extended arms of banks. And if we are talking about housing for all, if we are talking about affordable housing, and affordable housing has already got a status of infrastructure. So I think that there's a huge potential for housing finance companies, and especially I like DHFL, which is trading at 347 right now. I think that this has the potential of reaching 500 if somebody holds on with a longer term perspective. Look at companies like Capital First, look at companies like Canfin Homes, and even GIC and LIC Housing Finance. I think there's a huge value still which is locked. And I'm sure that on a year-on-year basis, these stocks have the potential of growing 15 to 20%. My take is that in a bull market, in a running market, I think that these are good companies to have in a portfolio, and these companies are definitely going to show a year-on-year increase. And one more thing, their exposure is primarily retail. So the NPAs are generally, which, are not that high. So there's a lot of control on the NPA side. So which makes their book very attractive. And with demonetization, property prices coming down, the risks have, been subdued to some extent. So I think that, housing finance companies should do well with at least, year and a half perspective.
Right, Mr. Subramaniam, under the NBFC pack, how is REC and PFC looking? Every day it tends to attract a lot of new buying.
Well, REC has been probably the most interesting in the last fortnight. It had a hefty dividend of 7.5 rupees. That attracted a lot of buying. And post ex-dividend, one would have expected some sort of unwinding. So that's not coming about. It's still, yesterday also it closed around 158. So definitely there's a lot of appetite in this particular stock. PFC on the other hand, I think it has actually given up a lot of the gains. I think some of the expectations have not been met in terms of probably some sort of dividend trigger. And I think it has given up some of the gains. But I think closer to levels of 120 by 130, decent bet. But on a preference, I think REC looks a better bet. But I would prefer to wait for some sort of correction. So I think that would definitely be one which probably will be more in focus than PFC.
Right. Avinnash, what will be your call on REC?
No, I think from a longer term perspective, REC definitely looks to be a very strong cash flow generating company with good dividend yield kind of possibility for shareholders. I would believe that despite the fact that the stock has performed quite well and outperformed, I think if one were to take the next 12 to 15 months also, I think in terms of the cash flows, in terms of the operating assets and the kind of delinquencies, I think REC has done a remarkably good job. I mean, if possibly some more power reforms are announced for power distribution, REC would definitely outperform all the relative peers. And clearly from a longer term perspective, not only from the dividend play, but even from a stable kind of business model, I think I would be a buyer in REC, but provided the time window is at least 12 to 18 months.
Right, Vijay, we've got a downgrade for Bharti Airtel from CLSA, which says that earlier they were a buy, now they are an underperformer, as they believe that intensity of tariff is likely to increase in the sector. What is your outlook on Bharti or maybe on the telecom pack?
Well, CLSA has downgraded Bharti. Now I've been doing it since last 6 months, and I don't think that there's going to be much action in the entire telecom space, because if balance sheets are going to drain, balance sheets are going to bleed, I doubt that we are going to see upsides in telecom sector until and unless they come up with new business models. Now Airtel is now doing a payment bank, and they are garnering more and more subscriber base, but it will take time for them to show profitability on the balance sheet due to the Jio effect. I think that new business models have to emerge, and they have to find new ways of earning revenues. Now we are talking about most of the telecom companies are offering unlimited voice and unlimited data in 300-400 rupees. Now imagine what kind of profitability they will drive, because the ARPUs have been dropping like hell, and I think that it's going to be very tough for them to maintain their bottom lines. So at least for the next 1 to 1.5 years, I don't think that anything much is going to happen in the entire telecom space. So let's wait and see. There's going to be a lot of mergers and acquisitions, lot of consolidation happening, and a lot of new business models arising, and a lot of new business streams coming up in among these telecom companies. So let's see. Let's wait. They are here to stay for sure, but the profitability is definitely in question.
All right. Mr. Subramaniam, have you seen HUL? HUL saw a big move a day earlier, was finding a lot of resistance around the 900 rupee level, and it crossed that with a reasonable amount of increase in volumes also. What's the outlook for this stock?
Well, yesterday it was a surprise mover actually. I think after a long time we have seen some sort of action in HUL. But it's not exactly been a stock which has been performing in the markets, and I think this was probably the first few stocks which pushed the index past the 9,000 levels, and my sense is that closer to levels of maybe 940, 950, we will see some sort of profiting coming about. Definitely a stock which I would probably expect to underperform at least in the near to short term. Okay,
not performing a big performance coming in from this counter. Vijay, have you had a look at Just Style? Just Style is perhaps scripting a big turnaround, at least for the stock prices. We don't know about the, how much of a turnaround the fundamentals are going through. But that stock is down near 600 rupees a share, still far off from its 52-week highs. What would you do with Just Style? Do you think you're going to see a change in the fundamentals of this counter as well? What's your view on Just Style?
Well, it's a trading bet, and probably it is going towards 650. But if you ask me fundamentally, all the internet-based companies, I often question the balance sheets and the profitability. Where will it come from? What is the revenue model, and how are the revenues growing? All the internet-based companies have challenges there, and Just Dial is another model. Until and unless we see some drastic improvement in their bottom lines and we see that coming up, I don't see fundamentally I don't see this company as a black horse. So my take is that it's a trading bet. Probably it will take this move further to 650. But yes, fundamentally there are a lot of questions on the balance sheet, on the profitability, on the business model, and how the revenue models are going to come up in the future. So yes, definitely if somebody wants to ride the tide, 650 is the level I would recommend.
All right, headed towards 650. That's Just Style from Mr. Vijay Chopra. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on NDTV today and giving us your views on all the stocks we've discussed. As you go, please leave us with the disclosures. Avinash, any disclosures that you'd like to make?
Whichever stocks we recommended today could have been recommended to our clients. Personally, I don't have any positions.
Vijay, your disclosures?
No personal holdings. We keep on recommending these stocks to our clients.
Mr. Subramaniam, your disclosures?
Well, no personal holdings, but the views are similar to what we have given to our clients.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on NDTV Profit today.